I could. And if we could please stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, June, you have the roll recorded. Presentations and updates. Anything? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. It's one of the pleasures of being a superintendent of schools at times to introduce students of extraordinary strengths and talents, and tonight is one of those nights for me. We have someone at the high school that I think deserves our attention, and I must say the word got to me through the coaches and through the athletic department about a young man by the name of Michael McLean, and then I saw a fascinating article in the Express Times that highlighted Michael's quest to get back in the swing of things after, you know, a very tough set of circumstances hit him. And so, Michael, would you step forward, please? And how about your mom and dad? Are they here this evening? Yes. Would you come up to the podium? Michael is an extraordinary young man, and I think all of us as individuals and all of us as people who are connected to kids in some way or another will gain some inspiration from what he has done this year. Michael faced a health crisis last year and struggled through a very difficult period of time. According to the article, he was forced to miss the second half of the season per the doctor's orders, and he had to successful surgery in early December of this past year. Michael had to gain 30 pounds back once his surgery was completed. He was on the road to recovery. He had to gain 30 pounds in the off season to get back up to where he wanted to be so he could compete on the football team. I believe that is Coach Brado here? Yeah, there you are. Coach, would you like to come forward as well? Would you like to just offer a few comments about this young man? And
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm an Easton guy, and I grew up here, and I went to school here, and I've always had a tremendous amount of pride for this community and love for this community. And I've been blessed to have some great role models in my life that steered me in the right direction. And I realized that I wanted to come back and I wanted to work with kids in Easton. And I can say that it's kids like Mike that make my job worth it. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I met Mike a couple years ago. Mike was a little rough around the edges. And, you know, he struggled with picking things up on the football field. He couldn't figure out where to line up, and it was frustrating to him. But he worked through it, and his perseverance allowed him to work hard and to figure it out. And he's turned into such a great kid and such an asset to not only our football program but to our school as well. And to be able to overcome what Michael has overcome and to have the courage and the perseverance that this kid has makes my job worth it. And I appreciate him for what he's done, and I appreciate all the hard work. And I think his courage and perseverance should be an inspiration to all of us. Thanks.
Well said. Well said, Coach. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I know it's from your heart. And Michael, we asked you to come here tonight. As you know, I asked your principal if he could talk to you and see if you were okay with this. And he said that you were fine, and I'm glad that you felt that way, because the story that I think you have to tell and just the courage that you represent is really important for all of us here. So I want to commend you for what you've done so far and tell you that I believe it was Coach who said to me in an email that you are representative of the Easton spirit, and we all look to you with humility and great pride in what you've done. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mom and Dad, our best wishes to you as well. I know you've been through a great deal and a huge struggle there, and he wouldn't have done this without you, so congratulations. Michael, congratulations. There you go. Mr. Cock, would you like to add anything to what we've said already about this young
I
man?
want to follow back to Mr. Brado. That was
Yes, he did a great job there.
An outstanding, speech. I've known Michael for 4 years now, and what Mr. Brado said, I'd like to second about the perseverance. And really, Michael exemplifies what Rovers really are, and I think he will be an inspiration, and he has a lot more to play yet.
Yes.
So, first matchup Friday night against Nazareth, playoffs after that, and of course Easton Peabird for his senior year, and I look forward to his leadership on the field.
Great.
Congratulations.
Terrific.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Sure.
Other presentations?
That's it.
Superintendent's report.
Actually, I just wanted to report to the board that over the past several months, it's hard to believe that quarter of the year is over already, virtually quarter of the year. And I've been able to, across that span of time, get to all the schools and visit, some more than others, but trying, in my attempts to try to get around, I think that what I'm trying to do is represent your well wishes to the staff members and students and parents that I meet. I think you would be very surprised. I know many of you cannot do that, but you'd be very surprised and pleased at what you see and happening in our schools. You'd be very pleased with the student reaction that students display when an adult walks in the room and the teachers have an opportunity to discuss something with them. They're at ease and they're very well mannered, and they look like they're really enjoying their time in the Easton School classroom. So I just wanted to share that with you. The other aspect of my job that I've really enjoyed so far is the opportunity to meet with some service-related organizations in the community, and both actually all of us in the cabinet level and in my office, we're trying our very best to establish relationships with those organizations in the community that want to help us help kids and families. And the outpouring of interest and desire from those organizations is huge. So that's also a real positive. So I'm very happy with that. And I believe that's all I'd have for our report tonight.
Thank you. Joan, any communications? Continuing on with reports, Dr. Moskaitis.
The IU-20, we had our monthly meeting last week, one of the rare occasions that's before this meeting. Biggest issues, they have budget issues with respect to, they often are not going to know how many special needs children there are in each category until the school year starts. I'm sure Ms. Peters understands that quite well. And so it means there's a juggling act always going on in the IU. Also, there are still unresolved contracts that are in negotiation right now, and they're working very hard at that. I would also say that this district and all the districts of IU-20 are very fortunate to have the leadership team that you have at IU. They are very good stewards of the monies that we send there, and they really have the children's interest at heart. This was my last meeting with the IU. There is no meeting for the IU in November. Their next meeting is December. And what I would just ask you to consider is they are losing about half of their current directors. So that it makes it all the more imperative so that they can continue working smoothly is that this board name an IU representative hopefully in December. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Riley, the library.
Mr. President, the Easton Public Library Board met on the 8th of October on the Southside Library, Southside Easton Library, at 3 p.m. You all received the minutes in the email. Of note, the summer reading program had 2,023 student readers throughout the summer. So our kids are continuing to work on their skills that they learned during the school year with us. The Youth Services Department, once again, is hosting tutors from Lafayette College. These students are part of a federal work-study program through America Reads. 35 children from the Easton Area School District are being tutored on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the library. Other regular business that may be of interest, the library received a grant for a fire suppression system for the Marks Room, and we passed the passed approval for our foundation.
Excellent.
Our next meeting is November 12th at the main library building at 3 p.m.
Good, thank you. Continuing on, CIT.
Not too much going on over at the CIT as of the October meeting. We've just finished up some contracts also. One notably that we finished up was the director's contract. I believe that was the last one we did. There's a lot of them going on together. Other than that, there's not too much else going on over at the CIT.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I've been working on the committee for the open house that's coming up November 13th. All the board members are invited. They have a number of businesses that put booths up inside of the cafeteria. And the Scholarship Foundation has a number of things that they chance off. They're going to have a larger chance. The first prize was donated by the Northampton Community College, a $500 gift to be used for anything at the college, scholarship, books, whatever, and 3 other nice gifts. And then they're going to have the tricky bag things where you buy the tickets and you put them in the bags you want to win. So there'll be probably 25 of those. So that's November 13th, and we hope that a lot of the board members and the staff and administrators come. It's nice to see you up there.
Good, thank you. Moving on to community college. This past month, we held our meeting up in Monroe, and the intent was, it had 2 intents. One was for exercise, but more importantly, it was so that we would get to see the new campus as it was starting to develop. This month, we should be starting to turn on some of the utilities and everything, and so it was an exciting time. One of the notes, obviously, is, in this case, we're not really using tax dollars that are coming from the supporting districts, but rather the dollars that are coming right now for that are coming out of the bond issue that goes with the state, because they pick up and fund half of it, and the other portion of the money is coming out of the casino money. That is one commitment that Monroe County had made, that they were going to be funding half of the cost for up there. So it is moving along very well. The students are excited about it. The staff is excited about it. And we're looking to be on target for a opening next year. There was minimal other business discussed. As I said, most of it was a couple hours of touring and walking through the facilities.
And also, Bob, we have a regional conference coming up. The president and board of trustees will meet at Luzerne County Community College. It's done once a year. They move around to each community college and to find a way to get some of the board members up there and the president. So it'd be a long day, probably 4 to maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock before we get back.
Correct.
So that's just to mention so they know that meeting is coming up.
Okay, moving on. The foundation, Mr. Vandenberg. This is something new this evening.
Yeah, something brand new. I am pleased and very, very excited to be announcing the founding of the Foundation for Easton Schools, or FFE as you will sometimes hear me refer to it as. What we've done is we've compiled a group from our community and put a board together. And created a foundation that can raise funds for special projects and special needs of the Easton Area School District. And I am pleased to say we are open for business. Right here in our audience tonight, we have our executive director of our foundation. I'd like to ask Ms. Kathy Miller to stand, please, and just be acknowledged by the crowd. This is our executive director. I am fully confident that Kathy is going to be a cheerleader for this district. We've had several meetings, several foundational meetings. We're getting our board developed at this point, and getting ourselves situated with naming and just some of the background things that have to go into setting up such an organization. And I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's get some funds raised.
And Mr. Vandenberg, on that note, this is a project that this board has believed in and everything. And as of this evening, I know that Mr. Simonet has been collecting funds. We've asked that every board member, including our attorney and his firm, and the administrators here,
You gotta pay to play.
have all been contributing in the neighborhood of approximately $100 out of their own individual funds. And that is meant to go into the foundation.
And Mr. Faino, I was very proud to start the foundation about 3 or 4 years ago, even though it was dead and it wasn't done anything under our former business administrator. Mr. I think it was Mr. Cortez and myself put the foundation, got it together, and we had a board that just puckered out. And but we got the foundation at least put together, and then we went dead for 4 or 5 years, and it's good that it's being taken over and it's being worked.
It's a brand new one. That whole thing went to totally defunct. This is a brand new one from start,
They
ground
created a
up.
new foundation, or
Yes.
they took over the old one?
No,
They
brand new.
created a new one.
yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. The old one is
The other one
totally,
is still in existence, then we have to sort of notify the state that one, that's defunct.
We're working on that.
Okay,
We're working
all
on
right.
that.
That's, okay. So they don't get confused with the two foundations. Okay.
moving on with the reports. Legislative, Mrs. Ellison.
Okay, I'll be brief. We just had our legislative conference, and I believe you went to the end of it, Mr. Faino,
Yes.
if I'm correct. And I was there during the platform legislative review. And we do now finally have our platform for this upcoming year, which is great. And probably the biggest thing that was a bone of argument was whether board directors need to have training and in-service that would become mandatory for board directors versus optional. And that delivered a lot of comments, but no change at this point. It's still a voluntary episode for board members to receive training once they become a board member. And other than that, I think that that report is complete, and we will continue to follow the legislation that's going on in Harrisburg.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Cox.
It is with great pleasure that I get to introduce our executive board president, Caitlin Rodriguez.
Thank you. Good evening. At the high school, we recently had our blood drive on October 24th. It was organized by Miller Keystone, and it was a success. We raised 42 units of blood. Also, since October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we raised funds for the American Cancer Society last week by selling pink lanyards and other pink accessories. For teacher appreciation, we gave all of the teachers cookies provided by Sodexo and a thank you note. Sodexo is also going to be hosting a food drive soon as well. Many of the other classes in the high school are collecting class dues and organizing other fundraisers such as selling t-shirts. As for the Thanksgiving festivities, our homecoming kickoff dance is November 9th at the Palace Center, and we're selling tickets this week for $20. The senior class is organizing the parade and gathering wood for the bonfire. And the executive board is also ordering shirts for the Powder Puff game, which will be held November 25th. We look forward to all the events and keeping the traditions alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gilligan?
Good evening, and thank you again for this forum. As Council PTA President, I want, first of all, to alert you to our next Council PTA meeting, which is on November 6th at 7 at March Elementary, and we would love to see as many of your smiling faces as possible. We had a council meeting with Mr. Reinhardt in the last month since I spoke to you last, where representatives from each of our schools came and we sat around a table and talked over a number of concerns, and we felt very much like we had made some progress. We also appreciated the continuing roundtables that Mr. Reinhardt has kept up. We worked our way through some kind of thorny issues on busing and PBIS, and I think that we're making some progress on those, so appreciate that. I had a few updates from some of our elementary PTAs about activities that they're working on. At Palmer, Thanksgiving donation drive going on right now. On this past Friday, they had a trunk or treat. And if you don't know what that is, today was the first day I ever heard that word, and I heard it twice. So a trunk or treat is when a group of parents decorate their cars and kids go from car to car trick or treating. Palmer did this along with Family Connections, the fire department, and some EMTs, who handed out candy to the kids. Family Connections gave out gave out flyers. Next week, they're having a breakfast with dads and other male important figures in kids' lives. Their president has been working with Family Connections on kindergarten transition, surveying parents on that process, and they'll work with Family Connections as they get the results of those surveys. Over at Tracy had its first family fun night of the year, or is having it, this Friday, with a magician and an ice cream social. They're expecting 270 parents and children. It's sponsored by the PTA with no charge to students and families. The Kinder Kids program held a drive earlier this October to support Family Connections and the collection of non-perishable food items for backpacks that are distributed to our own Easton community or community of students for the weekends. Health and Safety Day is being celebrated November 8th with Lehigh Valley Hospital bringing their Safety Town to Tracy School. Fourth graders will learn about preventing head injuries and bike safety from local state troopers. And all students will get to taste a fresh garden soup made from the vegetables harvested through the summer and fall at Tracy School Gardens. Various anti-bullying initiatives are being discussed by the PTAs. This is a very important topic for many PTAs right now, especially in the elementaries and especially on buses. That is something that we'll work, I think, very hard on this school year. In my own personal world, I can tell you that class size is continuing to be a problem. And I can speak from personal experience because I have a third grader at March Elementary who is now in a class of 30. When we got the class size at the very beginning of the school year, and it was 29, which according to your policy says, at the elementary level, class size shall not exceed 29 students. We knew there was going to be trouble. A new kid moved in. In fact, we saw a moving truck come to College Hill, and we thought, uh-oh, I hope this is not a third grader. But, of course, it was a third grader. It's not getting better. It's getting worse, and we're now in violation of the policy that the school district has set. I think policies are there to set limits, and we're interested in knowing what's going to be done about that. There is no teacher aide, assistant in the class. I anticipate that there will be similar problems coming up in other classrooms as we move on. Okay. So that's a big concern. I'd also like to say that the teachers handle this admirably. It's a very difficult situation to have 30 kids particularly, I think, at March Elementary. So we look forward to, we expect some sort of resolution to that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And,
Mr. President.
yes.
Excuse me, but I just wanted to know if somebody would be able to talk to the board about the activity that happened today at Paxinosa in the afternoon. So, can somebody report on that? Mr. Steckel, can you just report on what happened? Because that was a great opportunity for kids. And
Local firefighters in the Easton Fire Department work closely with Family Connections, and the Easton firefighters did come up with, I believe, over 100 winter coats, and they were distributed today to the students in front of the school.
yes,
So students were selected
Great.
through, I would imagine, through the school counselors and the nurse, and they were distributed today.
so I think some members of the fire department were there, as well as the mayor and others, in distributing the coats. It's a really nice, and made me think about that when our PTA, we were talking about our PTA activities. So good.
Thank you. Okay. There were additional addendums up there that were added this evening. There's like 3 different colored sheets. I believe there's a white sheet, a yellow sheet, and a blue sheet. So as we, pardon?
I don't think the white ones made it up.
The white ones didn't make it up there?
White one is 10 2
Yes.
We got those in the back.
Yeah, but not on the podium for the public.
There's a white one.
Here's some extra ones. Are there 2 white ones or more than one?
No, there's only one white one. Did you have extra copies?
Well, you gave them to me in there. Look here, here he is. I give you an extra $100.
I need
got one.
You do have one, I'll take it.
I have one. You ordered them? You have that back. We pay you? Do we?
I listened to the president.
Why?
I don't know. You don't listen to Sally. See, I hear 9 reasons in bed.
Okay, moving on. The standing committee reports are noted here, and that brings us to the public to be heard on the agenda items. And everybody has the agenda items. So is there anybody that would like to address the board this evening? Yeah?
And I'm doing this as a member of the community rather than the PTA because this is about one of the attachments. And I haven't had time to talk with my PTA to find out about the general consensus, so I didn't want to speak as a PTA representative. First of all, I guess I should say, this is the quickest turnaround on a request I've ever made, and ask and you shall receive. Maybe I should keep on my level. I'm a little bit concerned about transparency and the amount of time that's given to certain topics. Certainly, I didn't know about the yellow sheet, which is a proposal to transfer a third grade teacher to March Elementary. The I Heart Boobies case, which is the petition for writ of certiorari here, is something that's come out as an addendum. I read the board agenda faithfully, and I didn't see it on there, right? And so it's frustrating to me as a community member to have something like this put on at the last minute. I personally am not in favor of the school district spending more money to fight a case that seems like a silly case. I'm disappointed in our school for doing that, and I speak personally about that, but I'm sure I'm not alone. I would like there to have been a longer lead time to let the public know about this so that there can be an opportunity for public discussion about something like this. The special board meeting last month at which the raises were discussed and voted upon, I think is again another missed opportunity for transparency in the public. So I guess that's what I want to say. I wish that the school board wasn't pursuing this any further, but I, at the very least, wish for more publicity. Okay, thank you. I'm going to write my name in this time.
Can I make a comment on it? No. I don't know if we should. Okay.
We keep just saying thank you to people. Other than that, we're gonna have everybody commenting. Okay, anyone else this evening? Not seeing any hands. Okay, moving on. We have the approval of the minutes, the executive session. Can we have a motion on those?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or corrections?
I could comment on the screen.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Under personnel, always take retirement separately. Can I have a motion?
Motion with
And the
regret.
exposure is only 5%.
Second.
A motion and a second, okay. Any comments? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Under personnel, continuing on, we have B for resignations, and I'm looking to go all the way down through the entire list, up to and including, and then we'll stop at that point for a purpose, number 10S. Can we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a second, thank you. Any comments or questions?
For clarification, we're going through B through S?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? And I stopped at that point so we can give a little bit of acknowledgement here. Again, a committee of this board for the negotiations had started to meet back in January, and there were ongoing discussions and everything, up to when last night the final vote of the union was taken by the administrative professionals, which ratified their contract. And therefore, they were then waiting to see where our approval would be tonight. We have to remember, the administrative professionals helped the financial situation during the past 2 years by agreeing to pay freezes and other concessions that they had. Considering this, and considering their discussions and everything, they were very congenial, they were understanding of the current environment and what we're looking at in our current future. In both cases, the agreements we believe are good, were done and are good for both parties under the circumstances. In both cases, the conditions are retroactive to the expiration of the current agreements and continues for 3 years until June 30th of 2016. We have a sheet that we will then supply to the press that has the raises and everything on it. It talks about what their raises are, basically 2% for each year for custodial maintenance, and for the administrative professionals, it's 3.7, 3.5, and 3.3. And there's other concessions, though, as far as health benefits, doctor visits, and prescriptions. Bottom line, the total increase for the custodial maintenance group over 3 years, the impact to the budget, is $82,000. Administrative professionals, the total impact is $77,000. And probably the key that I should have mentioned, $82,000 is over 3 years for 82 people. So you can do the math on that. In the case of the administrative professionals, it's $77,000 over 3 years for 53 people. So it is a recognition, and we do appreciate and want to thank them for working and with us and coming and drawing this to a conclusion. So that brings 4 groups at this point that have been settled this year. Moving on. We have 11, which deals with academics. And under 11, under Beata, I will just note one thing. That's based upon further investigation by the solicitor's office. And then we have 12 policy, and if we can do 13, we can even pay our bills. Can we have a motion?
We're doing this again, correct?
Yes. Right, that comes after 13F. 13F takes us through the Plan Con and the Rose Paul Campbell Scholarship.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments?
I would just, if I could, just say that many years ago, I worked with Rose Campbell, and I think it's a great way to acknowledge someone who gave so many years of her life to the Easton Area School District and the students of the community through a scholarship like this. And I think it sets a really fine example for others in the community who might like to do so, to honor or memorialize someone through providing an opportunity for us graduating seniors to leave our community and go on to better things. So it's a wonderful thing, and I certainly appreciate the Campbell family for doing that.
We have a motion and a second. Heard no questions. All those,
Mr. President, when I
Yes.
vote aye, I'll be voting for everything except 13D. When I vote no, it'll be just for 13D.
thank you, sir. Just to note, that is establish a student activity plan. Okay, so noted. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No on 13D.
Thank you. We come to miscellaneous, and I will pull them separate. And the first one is for the petition of writ of certiorari.
Certiorari.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't ask me to say it twice.
John, would you like to have some comments?
Yeah, I think I think a couple of comments would be appropriate. First of all, I appreciate the view of Dr. Gilligan. Let me say that when this matter first came to us in the form of a civil action in the federal courts and a request for the school principal to be preliminarily enjoined from enforcing the dress code at the middle school, I thought it was pretty silly too. As this case has developed, it actually has raised some significant jurisprudential, constitutional, and policy implications that have gotten the attention of both constitutional scholars and educational interest across the country. As you know, the board has the prerogative to discuss legal matters involving litigation in private, and I think that we took that prerogative because when the Third Circuit handed down its decision en banc, which was a highly split decision, I said to the board that the only way that I would recommend that we take this any further is if, in fact, we could demonstrate, or I should say it were demonstrated that there was, in fact, a broad spread support for two things. One was the importance of the case, both constitutionally and from a policy basis, in terms of the authority of school officials to identify and decide what is civil discourse and what isn't. And secondly, that we were able to obtain active support of some national organizations. We've been able to do that at this point. We're looking for more. We have the commitment for amicus participation by the National School Boards Association, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, and the National Association of School Psychologists, who are very concerned about the implications of a hypersexualized environment, which this case could present the possibility if it spreads from circuit to circuit. The other thing that we want to be careful of course, is that the costs were going to be continued to be taken care of. Because unfortunately, in our system, constitutional law doesn't come down from the top; it bubbles up from the bottom, and that means that from time to time, individual litigants have to bear the the pulling, I guess the lion's share is not the term I want, but the heavy burden, the heaviest burden of carrying litigation forward. Here, fortunately, we do have significant coverage so that our exposure for fees in going through with the writ of certiorari process is only 20% of the fees. So, I'll be surprised if it's $2,000 or $3,000 for that process. Now, if the case does get taken, and that is the third element that I was concerned about, and that is that we had some legal opinion outside of just my office that this in fact was what we call cert worthy. In other words, is it really I actually have a chance of being taken. And because of these issues that I've mentioned before, the jurisprudential issues involved in the way the decision was structured, and because of the subject matter of the question of authority to regulate civility in the schools, we got a good sense that the educational community and the school law community felt that this case has a reasonable chance of being selected, of course, in an environment in which there are many petitions, but few cases actually heard. So there was quite a bit of thought and care taken before this recommendation was made. You're right, it was kind of non-transparent, but most things litigation-wise have to be. But it was carefully considered, and there was a foundation that we had to make this recommendation. So it wasn't a recommendation that was made in any frivolous way.
Any other questions or comments? We had a motion and a second?
No.
No, we did, okay. Please, motion and a second?
I move that we proceed with this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, thank you. Any comments now? Sure.
Just to compound on what our solicitor said, I know I certainly speak for myself when I say that this was a difficult decision that we had to make, and some of us made this decision kicking and screaming, but we as a whole feel like it was the right thing to do based on what was presented to us. I just wanted to make sure that that was known.
Other comments?
I would further say that if some of the newer members of the board were there at the very beginning, it probably wouldn't have proceeded. But at this point, I think our solicitor was very careful in describing that there's greater value for the country at this point to have this debate done and move it forward at minimal expense to the district. So I was in favor of it.
Frank?
We heard that there's other active organizations that support minimal 2,000 to 3,000. And a lot of people think there's a reasonable chance to overturn the thing. I'm going to let them run with the ball. I'm a no, I just want to be done with it. I think we should be done with it. I just, it's only 2,000 to 3,000. We don't have money to keep putting 2,000 to 3,000, 1,000. Let it go. We lost 20, 30 times. I don't even know anymore, so just let it go.
Other comments? Hearing none. Motion and second is on the floor. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I hear no from Frank. Thank you. The second one is something that, again, we should note. The solicitor's office last year basically took a freeze on what their wages were as well. And this year and tonight we have on the appointment of the solicitor again with a new contract. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I did make my contribution to the.
Yeah. You made two.
I made two, yes. So I was hoping for at least 2 votes. Thank you.
Public to be heard on non-agenda items. Is there anybody tonight that would like to address some non-agenda items? Yes, sir. Yes.
First off, I'd like to state my name is Zane Rice. I'm a student at the Easton Area High School, and I've come here today to speak to you all about the issues facing certain academic clubs, including band and the debate team, which this committee seems to have constantly on the chopping block, so to speak, for budget cuts. I want to make it known that the students at Easton Area High School, especially those who are participants in this club, work very hard and diligently, and as do the teachers, and especially Miss Liddy, who has dedicated almost 3 decades of her life to this program that is the band. You seem to have pictures and images going through the scenes prior to this event occurring, yet however, every time the budget issue comes up, you seem to have the band and these other academic extensions on the chopping block, versus, for example, sports teams, especially the football team, who last year, it was well known, many were arrested for being drunk underage. It is not appreciated by either the student body nor those teachers who donate their time and who work diligently to ensure that students receive a proper education not only within the school, but also for extracurricular activities, which are so essential anymore in order to get into a proper university. I came here today to speak to you about this because the issue seems to be shunned by this group. You don't seem to take it seriously, the fact that people who are not sports teams, who are not jocks, their futures are being put on the line because you want to put more money into the football program or the baseball program. Never mind the fact that all these programs are extremely academic and essential for people's futures. The fact of the matter is that the last thing I would like to say, if you will permit me, this committee is here to serve the academic interests of the students, not to ensure that those few who are physically capable can perform in a football game for a few years, only to have a few games being thrown down the tube and have so many others suffer because of all the money that has to be funded into that program. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening that would like to address the board?
My name is Terry Rice. I'm Zane's mom. And although he has commented on, hold on a second. Although he commented on the sports programs, this is where we disagree. I consider sports, also very important for those people that are continuing on into college that want to get scholarships to go to college and everything. But we do have in the agreement that clubs such as debate, they are vital to the continuance. I have colleges that are offering him scholarship to be on their debate teams in college, where if the debate team is done away, he can't get offered that because he can't put it on his college application and he doesn't get that experience. My son was nominated by the person that read his SAT written portion of the exam from the College Board. They nominated him to be entered into the National Society of High School Scholars. With the nomination, they had to say why. And part of it was that, as you can see, he presents himself very well. This wasn't through a class in literature. It wasn't through English courses. This is through Mr. Capone taking him and molding him during debate. This is something that these professors that he has met with colleges such as the University of Chicago, Duquesne, Notre Dame, Georgetown, they all say he presents himself very well, that they commend the person that has molded him into the person it is today. And it is not just Mr. Capone, it is Mrs. Liddy. They both take these kids and they mold and shape their lives. And without them and without these programs, these kids wouldn't be who they are today. You guys want people to come out of Easton and be proud that they graduated from Easton. I'm an Easton graduate. I'm proud I graduated from Easton. Easton had a lot more to offer than a lot of the other school districts, especially when I was in high school. That's what I'm asking for my kids, is to give them the chance to come out and say, yes, I'm an Easton graduate. And for you guys to sit there and say, this kid graduated from Easton. He went on to do this. She went on to do that. And it's not just sports. It is academically as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening to address the board? Seeing no hands. Moving on, is there any other business from board members? Seeing, Bob?
Well, two things. One would be, I think it's very timely, the discussion on class sizes. And what I would suggest is at our next academic committee meeting that we have a more thorough discussion of class size, a review of class size, a review of the policy, and what it really means, because it's an emotionally charged topic for parents, and polls show that it's the #1 issue consistently in the United States, the desire of parents to have lower class size. There's a presumption there, and the presumption is that it matters to student performance. So I think I'd be interested, I think it would be a good thing for the public to hear and have that debate, not just presenting what the number of students are in each of our classes, but what data is out there in the United States that supports decisions that we take. You know, one thing in business that you're taught is don't solve the wrong problem, because it could be very expensive. So I would appreciate having that debate at the academic committee meetings. Secondly, in our board packet, we receive always a summary from the various principals. I assure you they are read and enjoyed, and I would like to commend Ms. Piazza for hers this past. I learned a lot about the issue of transiency, especially as it affects Cheston. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Did I see another hand?
I just wanted to make two comments. One was that I wanted to express appreciation for the high school guidance office and the things that they do. And the reason why I'm bringing that up now is that I personally have no students here at this district any longer. They've all graduated, but they continue to serve our students even above and beyond their graduation, because I've had to go back in for my students and they've notified them that they need things, and they are very attentive to getting things done and getting them done in a timely fashion. And I think it's extremely important that we recognize that the guidance continues to do above and beyond, and I would call that above and beyond because it's beyond the graduation date for these students. And I also would reiterate what Dr. Moskaitis has mentioned regarding the reports. We appreciate the reports from the elementary and the high school and the middle school very much. It's helpful for us to stay abreast of what's going on, especially when we're not in the schools. And it's been particularly helpful for me this year because I have no one in the schools. So it definitely is very much appreciated. And I think that's all I will go with tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, a few minutes in the executive.